It's on the on the Pedic we learned this past Shabbos, like we did. So last time we did the Pedic from Shabbos before. Now we're also doing last week's Pedic. For some reason, it comes out on the Parsha of the week. So Shabbos Parshas Emer Tavshin Daled Met. So we learned in Pirkei Avos, Rebbe says, "Eizo derech yeshara sheyavar le'adam." What is the straight path that a person should choose for himself? Any path that is beautiful, both for the one that does it and beautiful for people. It's not the mimer of my father-in-law. Shabbos Pashas Emer of the year Tavshin, and then the the calendar came out the same way that on Shabbos Pashas Emer they learned this Mishnah on Mishnah Zu. So he said about this Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. It's the beginning of the Pedic of Pirkei Avos that was studied in Parshas Emer. Following the custom to study Pirkei Avos between the Yom Tov of Pesach and Shavuos, the custom of studying Pirkei Avos between Pesach and Shavuos, that is something equal to all. In other words, everybody has this custom. The loikam minik lasses came before Shabbos Zakai. It's not like the custom to do it all the Shabbosim of the summer. To rak minik yesh noigin. The Alter Rebbe in the Siddur said that there are those that have a custom to learn Pirkei Avos an entire summer, but the custom of between Pesach and Shavuos learning Pirkei Avos, everyone. The Daik Shom and the Friedrich Rebbe asks over there in his Maimer, Mai kavanose shel Rebbe bebirur haderech hayeshar shel yavlei ad mavayis Hashem. What is the intention of Rebbe when he's asking and he wants to know in choosing the straight path that a person should choose in the service of Hashem? Medayik ba'amroi derech yeshar. It's very exact what he says. The person should choose the straight path. The fact that he's saying he should choose the straight path, that means there's alternate paths as well, but they're not straight. The matter is that the indication of this is also other paths in the service of Hashem. These are also good paths. Of Milas Derech Zuhi, and the advantage of this path is that it's a straight path. We need to understand what the idea behind it is, what are the different choices and paths, and what is this straight path that Rebbe is referring to. Again, also another question is, what does it mean that it's beautiful for the one that does it, and that it's beautiful from the person? It's also the one that does it is referring to the person himself. Like the expression of the Mishnah, that what is a straight path that the person should choose? Anything that is beautiful for the one that does it. I know to the person, in other words, the person that chooses the way. So we're already talking about the person. Isaha is referring to the one that's doing it. With the first women Adam, why is he adding that it's also beautiful from and for the person? To be able to understand all these questions, we first have to preface. It says that the ways of Hashem are straight. It's explained at length in the Mamorim of the Mittler Rebbe in his explanations on the Zohar. What's the true idea of a path? What's the true concept of a road? It connects the capital city and the royal palace, till the most private inner chamber that's in the royal palace. It's connecting those things in the most far-flung corner that's in the king's country. In every through road, there are both movements of going towards and returning, meaning that on the one hand, the one hand, the road serves as a means of reaching and transporting oneself from the royal palace to the most far-flung corner of his country. On the other hand, it's a road that serves that those are in the most far-flung corner could reach the royal palace. So that's what it means, that the ways of Hashem are straight. The koi ala Torah mitzvah. The ways of Hashem is referring to Torah and its mitzvahs. Through the Torah mitzvahs, that joins, like the road, like we said, joins all Yidden with the royal palace or with the king himself, Hashem's very essence. It says, Yisharim darchi Hashem, that the ways of Hashem are straight, and tzaddikim will travel those roads. The Koyal Yisrael, when it says that tzaddikim go on them, it's referring to Yidden, like it says, Va'amichul tzaddikim, your entire nation are righteous. In other words, these righteous people, the Yisrael, are the ones that travel on the roads of Hashem, the Torah mitzvahs. In the avoid of Torah of Torah mitzvahs itself, yesh beis dargis. There are two levels of Torah mitzvahs. Like it's explained in the continuation of that Maimer of the Frierdiker Rebbe. The Mikara initially ki ovid in Shadaita the Nafshikol. When a person does, they are doing it for their own soul, for their own benefit. Meaning, l'stakin l'snafshe sheyardol amata. To fix up, to elevate, to beautify, to adorn his neshama that came down here below. That's what means it's beautiful for him, the one that's doing it. Adam it's for the benefit of the person doing the mitzvah. And afterwards, he comes to a higher level. It is beautiful for him, for the person. What I mean, ha-adam, doesn't say min adam. Ha-adam, meaning ha-adam hayidu'ah, the definitive article, the known man. What's it referring to? The koi ala adam elin. It's referring to supernal man, like we know that in the Vua it speaks about it. The adam shall like kisei, upon the royal throne, there's the image of a person. That's the supernal man, the Eibishter. What does that mean? So this, first of all, what it beautifies the person down here. Then there's what we do to beautify and if you will, increase in the Adam above. Through the perfection of the Avodah down here below, in fulfilling Torah mitzvahs, through this we affect and we influence the supernal man as well. Like it's brought down the Zohar and the Pasuk, that man will do it and he will live in that. So it should have said Oisam. It should have said he does them, meaning the mitzvahs. But Atem, Pasuk, it says it without a letter Vav, and therefore can be read as Atem, meaning the Chazal derives from that, the Zohar derives from that, Mailan Yalechem Ki'ilu Asuni. I consider it that when a Yid does mitzvahs, it's as if you made me. Hashem says, as if you made me. What does that mean? Through the 248 positive commandments, we're building up Kaviyachal Hashem's 248 limbs and organs. And in Kabbalah, what are the 248 limbs and organs above? So he says, Poilim binya spheres the Zeir Ampin, we affect the building up the spheres of Zeir Ampin, which are the spheres of Atzilus, Shem Tes, Pamim Tes. These are 9 times 9. In other words, of the Zeir Ampin, there's 9 spheres, and each one of them has 9 in them. That's 81. Then you have Gimel Pa'amim, you have 3 times that, because every sphere has the beginning, middle, and end. So 3 times 81 is 245. And then there's, 243. The Heich Sodim Hamardilim, and then there's 5 levels of chesed that increase and make it grow, just like we have our right arm indicates chesed, our left arm indicates gevura, and on both of those arms we have at the end 5 fingers. So there's 5 chasodim. The capability of chesed is to increase. Anyway, that's the idea of the 248 limbs and organs above, that when we do mitzvahs, we cause that to manifest. And now, as it's known, this is a similar vein that we say that through the davening of a person down here below, we affect that Hashem should daven above. In a similar vein, through Torah study down here below, Hashem is reading in the Torah and reviewing the halachas as if he's sitting across from him, like a study partner. So we see that we, by doing Torah mitzvahs down here, we affect above. And that's the 2 expressions that we asked earlier in the Maimer. Why does it say Tiferes lo min Isav, Tiferes lo min Adam? We're talking about the benefit that I gain from the mitzvahs, the benefit that adorns and beautifies my soul, for which my soul descended down here below. Tiferes lo min Adam means the benefit that I share with Hashem above. And I increase and I make a growth in the spirits above. Yes, we could add according and by explaining the other exact expressions that are in this mission. The lechura in the movement, the cause of the Tiferes it's not understood why it says that it's beautiful for him, for those that do it. What's the association between doing and road? We were saying, what road should a person choose? You're saying choose a road that its doers will be beautiful. What does doing and roads have to do with each other? The simple idea of a road is somewhere that you walk on it, you go on it, travel on it. And the content of this Mishnah is what is the straight path that a person should choose to travel in. Why does it conclude to those that do it? He should have said, Eizo derech what is the straight path a person should choose? That which is Tiferes lo lolechas bo. That's beautiful for it to go on it. Why do you say to do it? You don't do a road. It doesn't fit. According to what we just now said, it's understood. Because the word path and road over here is referring to the road of Torah mitzvahs. But Torah mitzvah shaykh inyan asiyah, and Torah mitzvahs, it's applicable, the idea of action, doing. The ultimate purpose and goal of the giving of Torah mitzvahs is specifically in this physical world of action, specifically in action. With this, we can understand also why the Mishnah specifically says what is the straight path that a person should choose. Why specifically does it use the term choosing? What is what's the appropriate way and road that a person should go on? What's the emphasis on the word choosing over here? Because the idea of choice, it's referring to the refining and the choosing out of the sparks of this world. That's the idea of Torah and its mitzvahs. Refining the world. So now we're going to get back to the general concept. Is that you've gone close, and will this also be understood? The general idea. Izo Yeshara, what is that way? The straight way that a person should choose. The mashma that seems to indicate that specifically this road is in the capability of a person, and by his choice, because it's talking about that he's choosing it. In other words, this is something that he must choose. So the Rebbe is going to talk about there's a road that we're not allowed to choose, even though we may end up on that road, like he's soon going to explain, and that is not what the Mishnah is talking about. The Mishnah is talking about something that I am supposed to choose. What I am supposed to choose is the following. So the Rebbe explains what the idea behind this is. Seemingly, there's a higher thing in the service and of the refining of the sparks that is accomplished through tshuva, and it's such a great elevation of the sparks to such a degree that through tshuva we take even intentional sins and we transform it into mitzvahs. So seemingly, if you're looking for berurim, if you're looking to refine sparks, that's an even greater level, that's an even higher level of a path and avodah. So therefore, the Mishnah is forewarning and saying, no, that is not for someone to choose. This is not a straight path that a person should choose. Because a person by his choice is prohibited for him to sin and then do tshuva. As it's known, someone that says, I will sin, I will do tshuva, it's the opposite of Torah, even though one could say the berurim are so much higher because then I'm transforming even intentional sins into mitzvahs. Ella, rather, the only way how this can happen is this quality and advantage and level of berurim, of tshuva, happens from above. In Maimer, like it says, there's an awesome libel and plot and scheme against people to cause them to sin. And then we have the choice of tshuva, but we are not allowed to choose to sin. Look at Isa b'Zoyar, nefesh kisefta tvah, like it's brought on the Zoyar. It says in Chumash Vayikra, it says a soul that would sin, and such is the halachas, or the karbanis, and so on. So the Zoyar says about the pasuk saying nefesh kisefta tvah. It's a wonder. How can it be nefesh kisefta? It's like saying the Zohar is saying question mark. Don't just read it nefesh kisefta. This is the case, but nefesh kisefta is a question mark. Al pi Torah, according to the Torah, truth of befrat Zohar pnimis Torah, especially according to the Zohar, which is the inner part of the Torah. That's why the Zohar puts that question mark over there. Yesh tmiya kayemes al inyan hachet etzel nefesh miYisrael. There's an ongoing wonder and question mark. How can there be a sin by a Jewish person? Ella, but rather, where does the sin come from? El shekol inyan hachet u'bechinas noida alilam u'mayla. The entire idea of sin is in the way of an awesome scheme and plot that was plotted against us from above. Like to explain that length concerning the joust that Hashem will make in the future between the Leviathan and the Shred Habar. It says it's explained about this by Rucha B'Durush Admar and Tzoy B'Kitzur B'Chut Torah. It's explained at length in the Mamorim of the Mittler Rebbe and in short with the Torah. It indicates on one of the types of delight that there is for Hashem through tshuva. There's the delight of Hashem that comes about through ordinary Torah mitzvahs, And there's the delight of the joust. The joust is the idea of tshuva, where we're fighting and overcoming klippa. Because of this delight that Hashem has from tshuva, there's the idea of sin. But getting back to our Mishnah, this is not the straight path. Because it's the opposite of Torah. Therefore, it's not the path that a person should choose on his own. But the straight path that a person should choose is the path of Torah mitzvahs. So that's what we said earlier in the Maimer. That from the fact that the Rebbe says, what is the straight path that a person should choose? That indicates that there's multiple paths open to him. Because one of the paths that's open to him is tshuva. But that's not something he should be choosing. That's only something if Hashem brings him to such a situation. But he has to choose. The straight way that he has to choose is the avoid of birurim that comes through Torah mitzvahs. Based on this, we could also explain why it's specifically Rebbe that said and taught this particular mission. What was Rebbe known for? That he authored, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, he compiled the Mishnayos. Now the question is, did he compile it? Did he author it? We'll see in a moment this being addressed. Like the Rambam writes in his introduction to the Sefer Yad HaChazaka, where he goes about the whole history of Torah Shebal Peh. So he says as follows: since Rabbi Yehuda Nasi saw that the students are becoming less vatzoros mischachos voice, and there's new and ongoing trouble, malchus roimi peshatos ba'olam, and the Roman kingdom is spreading out in the world, and it's overcoming the world. And Yidden are finding themselves going to all types of edges of the earth, and therefore part of the tradition and the communication of the oral Torah is being lost because the distance and because of some fewer Talmidim. Because of that, instead of the Torah Shebal Peh remaining oral, he felt the need to record it. Therefore, he authored the Mishnah. Until he wrote down the Mishnah, because sometimes when it comes a time to do for Hashem, we even disband and disrupt your Torah, meaning the Torah originally was supposed to be given in two parts. One was the written Torah, and that was not supposed to be taught orally, that was supposed to be taught only from inside. And then there was the oral Torah that was not allowed to be written down. And Rebbe said, he took this from the Pasuk, that sometimes, because of the situation, even the oral Torah needs to be written down. As it's known, there's many opinions. If Rebbe himself transcribed the Mishnah, or he was the one that combined it, he collected from other writings and other recording, other people that recorded it. The opinion of the Rambam is that was already written in the time of Rebbe. That the Rambam says that he joined and he combined all of what was already written and he wrote them all down together. So Rebbe was the antidote to the problem of exile. And therefore, we're going to talk about that Rebbe, being that he was the antidote to exile, he was the one that had to tell us about the straight path. The Indian goal is the whole idea of exile that Rebbe was the antidote for. It's really rooted and begins with the descent of the neshama down here below in general. Kedisa betanya, like brought down Tanya, she read the neshama because goes to the descent of the neshama is considered a golus for neshama. It's considered exile for neshama. And why did it go through this exile? The goal and the purpose of this descent is to refine the body and to refine the animal soul and to refine and elevate the person's part of the world that's been allotted to him. Therefore, since Rebbe, who was about addressing the golus issues, he was the one specifically that said that what is the straight path that a person should choose for himself? Inyan avodas habirudim, the refinement, the avoid of refining his parts. Iderech haTorah mitzvahs is the path of Torah mitzvahs. So therefore, Rebbe, who knew how to address situations in golus, he was the one that addressed the neshama's golus of coming down here. The Rebbe continues, we could add to this, in addition to the fact that the avoid of tshuva is about transforming intentional sins to mitzvahs, it also contains the idea, the avoid of tshuva, that's beyond measure and boundary. And that also is something that the Rebbe is excluding, going out of boundary. Also concerning this idea of going out of limitations. The Rebbe is indicating the Mishnah and saying, that the straight path that a person should choose is the path in Avodah, in Torah mitzvahs, the way it's measured and has a boundary. Though there is an advantage in self-sacrifice, meaning going beyond boundaries, going out of limitations, still, and all this is insufficient. It's necessary that the self-sacrifice should become down. In an internal service, in Torah mitzvahs, it should be in a limited form. Yes, we could say that this idea of the choice of having the avodah manifest itself in the limitations of Torah mitzvahs is also hinted later on, and when he says, this is also hinted in what it says, that's beautiful for the one that does it. He's hinting to what it says, that in the first parsha of Krishma, the Chazal say, we are fulfilling the will of Hashem, because Chassidus explains, because in the first parsha of Krishma, it says, B'chol Ma'idach, and the second parsha of Krishma only says, B'chol Avavkam, B'chol Nafsham. It doesn't say B'chol Ma'idach. Avoid the B'chol Ma'idach, and avoid the B'chol Ma'idach, Chassidus says, Ma'id means without boundaries, avoid this, I'm serious nefesh, Shalom Didavak Bol. The avoid of self-sacrifice is beyond measure and boundary. And what's the idea of Iseha? Over here, he says specifically doing, action. Just like in when it says doing the will of Hashem, it says the word of Asiyah. Why? It's trying to ensure that even when it is unlimited and infinite, it has to come down to the practical, in the limited. Because this approach of with all your might, it shouldn't remain beyond measure and boundary. Like the avoid of Rav Shimon and his colleagues, that they were out of this world. They didn't function in this world. They were Torah was their profession. They didn't engage with the world. It's not enough that it should be b'chol ma'adecha, but it should come down where it says beforehand in Krishma, in all your heart and all your soul. Until it comes and following in the second part of Krishma, where it says you will gather your grain, which the Rashbi did not approve of. The Rashbi said that people will go out and plow and they will harvest. What's going to be with the Torah? But that's for people that are out of this world, like the Rashbi. Normally, this avodah b'chol ma'adecha has to come down and manifest even in my work in the world, in matters of the world, in an orderly fashion. For this reason, also Rabbeinu HaKadosh authored the 6 orders of the Mishnah. What's the idea of organizing it? Before the Rabbeinu HaKadosh authored the 6 orders of the Mishnah, there was a knowledge of all the multiple halachas, but they were disorganized and they were scattered. There were things called medrash halacha meant that you had on every pasuk in the Chumash, you had the halachas having to do with that pasuk. But that meant you couldn't find something by topic because you have different halachas and different mitzvahs that are repeated in different parts of the Torah. So there's no way of finding a organized fashion, a way that's in an organized fashion. The halacha came Rabbi and he made shisha sidre Mishnah. He made orders of the Mishnayos, like we mentioned last week. There is the Seder Zroim, agricultural laws, and Seder of Kachim, which deals with Karbonis, and Seder Moed, which deals with Shabbos and Yom Tovim, etc. Yeah, Boydam, the Mudgish in Seder, it's emphasized the idea of order. Yeah, Boyda Tzricha Fetum Seder Dafki, because the Boyda, high as it may be, and as unbounded it may be, it's necessary for it to come down in an organized, orderly fashion. Though in the oral Torah, it's included what it says, maidens without number, that there's halachas without count. So seemingly, if it's without number, without count, that means that there is no limitations. But you take those unlimited numbers of halachas and you organize it. It still has to be in an organized fashion. Shisha Sidra Mishnah, the 6 orders of the Mishnah, in an orderly fashion, in a limited fashion. That's why it's the Rebbe, the one that's telling us about this avodah. Through our avodah in the way of Hashem during the time of exile. We come speedily to the completion, perfection of the path that's going to be in the days of Mashiach. Then we will do over there before you, like the mitzvahs of your will, meaning blameless on mitzvahs. The mitzvahs will be done as you wanted them to be done, which we don't really have now. How come will the mitzvahs be done in the perfect state when Mashiach comes? Because all matters of the world will be in the ultimate perfect state. Both the objects and the items with which we fulfill the mitzvah and the person himself. So it's understood that if the items that we use for the mitzvahs and the person that's performing the mitzvahs are perfect, so then the combination of that will lead to a perfect doing of mitzvahs, as opposed to now where the items that we're using for the mitzvahs are imperfect. But the person is imperfect, so the mitzvahs are not perfect either. Though initially when a person does, he's doing it for himself. So therefore, it's still about elevating himself, but that's only the first step. And we're going to jump back past that. Still know when Mashiach comes, there'll be the idea of initially going over the phrase that the Rebbe Marash is known for. Shleimus avodah, the perfection of avodah. In this perfection itself, there's the idea of a road, because we will go and we will increase. Like it says, they will go from strength to strength. Doesn't mean that the beginning of our service remains in its place, but we're always elevating it higher. The beginning of the avodah will rise up through traveling from strength to strength. Like explained in a different place concerning the counting of the Omer. We say today is 2 days to the Omer. Today is 3 days to the Omer. We do not say today is the 2nd day of the Omer. How come? Seemingly, we should say it's the 2nd day, the 3rd day, the 5th day, the 49th day. Because in the second day, on the second day, it's not just that we're on a second level, but the first day as well is pulled up and elevated and becomes part of the 2 days for Omer. Now it's 2 days for Omer, meaning they're both on the level of the second. The same thing when Mashiach comes, even the beginning of the road becomes elevated as well. Well, that of the who in a similar vein, it's be'avodah adam ata in the service of a person now. Try they avodah through the avodah oisim shalom b'malish malish mata. It says that we make peace in the heavenly court and the court down here below. The koyal shalom nefshel kis nefshabamis kimevurble to the Torah. That the peace down here is referring to the peace between the godly and animal souls. Explain the Torah. In the days of Boyim L'Shleimus Hashem, the lawsuit, through this we come to the ultimate peace of Mashiach's times. Yom Shekuli Shabbos Menucha L'Chayei Olam, a day that's entirely Shabbos and rest forever. And afterwards we go up even higher. Talmidei Chacham Ein Lem Menucha, Talmidei Chacham have no rest. They're always going up from strength to strength. Be the will of Hashem. She calls the Bekarat Mamish. All this should be soon Mamish. But from the Miyadim in the Golem in a way that immediately they'll be redeemed. B'simcha to b'leivav, with joy and gladness of heart.
Amen.
Amen.